Weekly Shonen Jump magazine is the biggest manga company on the planet. It's the home of many popular and beloved franchises such as Naruto, One Piece, Dragon Ball, Death Note, and so much more. I've read a few of their series before, but like many, my first experience with them was from watching their anime adaptations. Today I thought it'd be fun to create a top 10 list of what I consider to be the best anime adaptations of Weekly Shonen Jump series. Obviously, this is my list, meaning that this is just my opinion. I'm sure yours and everyone else's will be at least somewhat different from mine. The only rule I've made for this is that a series can only be represented once. Otherwise, series like Hunter x Hunter and Dragon Ball would take up multiple spots since they've had more than one anime adaptation. The only thing I'll mention is that although I've seen a large majority of Jump series, I have not seen them all. So if one of your favorites did not make the list, then most likely it's because I'm not too big a fan of it instead of it being me not watching it yet. Anyway, that's about it. So without further ado, let's get started. Number 10. Death Note. Starting off the list is one of Jump's biggest series, which is Death Note. It centers around Light Yagami, who finds a Death Note which grants him the power to kill anyone when writing their name in it. Shortly after he starts killing people with the notebook, a genius referred to as L comes along to try and stop him. The series then turns into a big cat and mouse game where Light tries to kill L and L tries to prove that Light is a killer. Like with most shows on this list, Death Note is easy to binge and watch a good chunk of episodes in one sitting. However, this is probably the easiest anime to binge on this list. Death Note is a thriller and a good one too. It's hard to finish an episode and decide to stop and do something else. As soon as an episode ended, I immediately started up the next one just because I had to find out what happened next. Now, as an adaptation, Death Note is extremely faithful to its source material. Not only that, but the anime is a bit better than its manga, or at least I think so. The anime was animated by one of the best studios out there, which is Madhouse. It's very well animated, has good lighting, great character designs. Overall, there's not anything to complain about in terms of its production. The manga looked great, and I'd say the anime is just as impressive too. Not only does Death Note look great, but it sounds great too. I've listened to hundreds of anime soundtracks, but still, Death Note's score continues to be one of my all-time favorites. This might be the biggest reason why I enjoy the anime more than the manga. There are plenty of scenes and moments that are improved just with the inclusion of some of these tracks. Finally, there's its pacing, which is another area where I'd say the anime is notably better. Death Note is made up of many dialogue-heavy scenes, and this was a bit of a problem for its manga. Sometimes there would be too much text on a page, which made reading some of these chapters feel sorta slow. The dialogue in Death Note is very important, so there isn't much that could have been done to avoid this. Obviously, in the anime, the dialogue is spoken for us, so you don't need to spend time reading any of it unless you're watching the series subbed. Besides the dialogue scenes being slightly better than the anime, there's also the pacing of the last arc, which has been sped up too. Death Note is made up of two arcs, the L arc, which lasts for the first 26 episodes, and the Near and Mellow arc, which is the remaining 11 episodes. This second arc took up about 45% of the manga, whereas in the anime it only takes up about 33%. Now the reason for this is because the second arc isn't really that good. Nearly every fan agrees that at the very least this arc is worse than the L arc. It feels as if the series was dragged out for the sake of continuing, and obviously in order to make more money. This arc is overall okay, but it's notably better in the anime since it takes longer to get through in the manga. Finally, there's the ending itself, which without spoiling anything, I really don't like. I think the manga's ending sucks and the anime's ending is only slightly better. There are some small differences between the two, but in the end, the conclusion is still basically the same. I'm only bringing this up because this is just another small area where the anime did it better. Death Note's anime adaptation is nearly perfect. It faithfully adapts the source material while also making improvements and additions that increase the quality of the series. The only thing that would make the anime a lot better would be if they didn't adapt the second arc, which again is just fine. If they did that, then this would be a lot higher on the list. Number 9. Hikaru no Go. Here at number 9 is a series most people probably haven't heard of, which is Hikaru no Go. It's a series about a 6th grader named Hikaru who finds an old Go board sword in his grandfather's attic. There he somehow finds the ghost of an ancient Go player named Sai that died thousands of years ago. Sai and Hikaru become good friends and Sai teaches him how to play the game Go. And that's what the anime is about for 75 episodes. It centers around people playing this 1,000-year-old board game that a lot of people have never played or even seen before, including myself. I've heard of Go, but I've never actually seen or played the game. This show introduced me to the game, and the craziest thing about it is that even after watching more than 25 hours of it, I still have no idea how to play it. I'm still shocked at how much I enjoyed this series despite me having zero understanding of how the game works. Well, there's a reason for this. Yes, the show is about the game Go, but more than anything, it's about the characters. I don't care for the game Go at all. The reason I became so invested in the series was because it had a great and interesting cast. Hikaru was a kid who has no interest in the game when the series starts, but then as it goes on, he slowly begins to enjoy it and eventually becomes pretty good at it too. There's also Akira, who's the son of Japan's best Go player and is seen as a child prodigy. In the first episode, he loses a match against Hikaru since he was cheating and having Sai play the game for him. Because of this, Akira becomes obsessed with Hikaru and trains endlessly in order to eventually beat him in a future match. There are many other characters I could talk about, but I want to keep my thoughts somewhat brief. Besides the characters, I think another big strength of the series is how well it manages to use the shonen formula. It's always exciting seeing characters become stronger, watching intense battles, and seeing people's reactions whenever something unbelievable happens. This is what makes the show so entertaining. Hikaru no Go's anime doesn't really do much that's too noteworthy. It's 75 episodes long and doesn't have any filler episodes, which is great. But in terms of production, it's just a well-made show overall, but nothing too impressive. It's a faithful adaptation of the manga, so it's mainly great because the source material is great. Number 8. Kuroko no Basket. I may not be a fan of sports besides occasionally watching baseball, but I can enjoy sports anime as long as it's good. Kuroko no Basket follows the story of Kuroko and Kagami, who are two high school students that both love basketball. They join their school's team and also participate in regional tournaments where they face off against some of the best players their age. This is where the series gets to shine. Every match on the show is both fun and distinct, and the reason for that is because of its characters. Shortly after the series starts, every team Kuroko and Kagami go up against include a highly skilled team captain. Each one of these captains have something that makes them so terrifying and powerful. For example, there's Shintaro, who's reserved and plays very tactfully. His talent is that he can shoot and score from anywhere on the court. Because of this, he's able to score 3 points nearly every time he takes a shot, which is ridiculous. The entire match revolves around Kuroko's team trying to find a strategy that'll prevent Shintaro from scoring. Every other match is like this too. Another captain they face is Ryota, whose talent is to copy other players' abilities. He's able to do so, but only for a brief amount of time, so there's both risk and reward for using it. A large portion of the series is very solid, but it's not without its problems. The main complaint I, as well as others, have is that the show does get a bit repetitive and predictable towards the end of its run. Basically, in Kuroko, his team usually ends up winning their matches by 1 or 2 points and always seems to do so within the last couple seconds of the match. It's enjoyable the first couple times, but it almost always ends this way, which just results in the win feeling a bit cliche. It's not a big problem, especially since the matches themselves are extremely fun to watch. It's a minor issue I have, but there's not much that could have been done since this is how it is in the manga. Overall, Kuroko no Basket is a very faithful and produced adaptation. Number 7. Ashita no Joe. Here's an anime I'm sure most of you haven't heard of since it was released way back in 1970. Ashita no Joe follows the story of Joe, who's a delinquent that eventually becomes a professional boxer. However, due to his stubborn and childish personality, he ends up not taking his training seriously, which causes problems for both him and his trainer. Ashita no Joe is a series that centers around boxing, however, it's also a series that's much more than that. When you think of boxing, you probably think of two guys in a ring beating the crap out of each other. Obviously, Joe has numerous fights throughout the series, and while a lot of them are good, they honestly end up being the show's weakest aspect. The fights aren't the reason me and many others enjoy the series so much. We love Joe because of, well, Joe. The entire series is about Joe slowly growing and becoming a better person. It's so satisfying seeing him turn from being a bum to someone who genuinely wants to become a great boxer. However, in order to become a great boxer, he has to go through the struggles that boxers face. One of those include him starving himself and dieting for multiple episodes in order to lose enough weight to register for his next match. We see him go through depression for a good chunk of time due to a reason which I won't spoil. Joe's life is rarely great, and most of the time he has to go through an insane amount of hardships in order to succeed. Now, I've been saying a lot of great things about the series, and that's because there's a lot to like. However, there is one notable flaw it has. The anime was divided into 2 seasons, the first of which came out in 1970 and the second which came out in 1980. The first season is for the most part pretty good. The first 54 episodes faithfully adapt arcs in the manga. However, the next 25 episodes of the first season are sorta weird. It adapts some portions of the manga, but it also includes a sizable amount of filler, which isn't that good. It's far from the worst filler content I've seen in anime. In fact, it's actually not half bad, although it's still a notable decrease in quality from everything we've seen before this. Also, the first 10 episodes of season 2 basically remake these episodes and remove all the filler content they had, so you can just skip these last 25 episodes and go right to season 2. If these episodes didn't exist, then Joe would have made it a bit higher on the list. Besides that though, everything else about the anime is great, especially when it comes to its art. For 1970, the anime looks great, and the same can be said even more for season 2. I'm amazed at how well this looks for 1980. The anime did switch studios between seasons, so that's the main reason why it looks so much better. Also, having a 10-year gap between seasons is a big reason too. Even though Ishida no Joe was a bit flawed, it's still a great boxing anime. And with that, this concludes part 1 of the video. Next time I'll be going over numbers 6 through 3, with the final part going over the top 2 along with 2 honorable mentions. Thank you for watching.